Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the blazing pyres of Viking warriors, where they did not rely on marble tombs or silent prayers but on fire and wind and the songs of kin. And while you may have heard poetic myths or seen Hollywood spectacles, the real ceremony was equal parts honor and duty and celebration of the voyage beyond this world. So tonight we ask what truly happened when a Viking was set to rest upon the waves and under the sky. Every clan had its own rites, and I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see whose land we join in these ancient flames. Now dim the lights, pull your blanket close, and let's sail into those radiant embers together. You stand at the edge of the longhouse courtyard, the early dawn light just brushing the roof beams with gold. A hush has fallen over the clan as family and warriors move with purpose toward the center, where the fallen hero lies upon a wooden slab. You feel the weight of hundreds of eyes upon you, yet it is not judgment you sense but reverence. Today you honor one of your own. First the kin step forward. A mother smooths her son's hair, and then lays a brooch beside his clasped hands. That brooch once fastened his cloak on a morning's raid. Now it fastens his memory to the ship that will bear him. An older brother brings the hero's axe and places it just above his head, blade gleaming in the dawn. Each warrior adds something meaningful. A carved drinking horn, a length of braided leather, a token from a distant shore. Together these gifts form a circle around the body. You move closer to join them. Your own tribute is simple. A small wooden bowl you carved last winter. You place it near your friend's heart and fill it with fresh mead drawn from the barrel you guarded through the cold months. The mead glitters in the light, a final offering of warmth and sweetness. You whisper a line of verse your skald taught you so many nights ago. Your voice cracks, but you finish the stanza. Now the shield wall forms. Warriors in painted faces and trimmed beards step forward 2 by 2. Each holds a round shield high, so the bright iron boss reflects the sky. You take your place near the center, standing guard beside the hero. Your own heart hammers so loudly in your chest you fear the hero might hear it. But you stand still and proud in your mail shirt, knowing this is your greatest duty. A hush falls again as the clan elder approaches. He is old, and his eyes shine with unshed tears. In his hand he carries a length of red cloth the color of fresh blood. He drapes it across the hero's chest, and then whispers a blessing in a language older than the stones they stand upon. He speaks of safe passage of good omens, and of Odin's hall waiting at the voyage's end. You feel the cloth brush your own hand as he passes. Its warmth is odd against the chill morning air. You remember once using that same cloth to bandage your friend's arm after he tripped on a shield boss during training. He laughed through the pain and challenged you to a rematch. Now that memory glows in your chest like a beacon. When the blessing ends, the elder steps back. A woman carries forward a large ring of woven grasses and scattered flowers. She places it gently over the hero's feet. The flowers are fresh daisies, sprigs of yarrow, and tiny wild roses. All of them stand for life and renewal, even as they adorn the wood that holds a dead man. You catch a whiff of their sweetness and inhale it deep, knowing the scent will soon be replaced by smoke and salt. Next, a warrior brings a length of thick rope and coils it at the hero's head. He does not speak, but his eyes hold a promise. That rope will tie the hero's legacy to the sea. When the ship launches, it will slip those bonds and carry him out into the horizon where no man can follow but many will remember. You step forward to make your own final touch. From your pouch you draw a small pouch of earth. It is dark soil taken from your own family's farm. You sprinkle a handful into the hero's hands, an offering of home. The earth falls onto his wooden chest in fine black grains. You feel tears sting your eyes, but you blink them back. All of the preparations complete, the ritual shifts. The hero has been clothed in his finest fur and linen. His hair has been combed into neat braids. His face is calm, as though he sleeps. You step back and let the clan's circle close in. The courtyard rings with soft voices. Some speak the hero's name in prayer, others hum old battle hymns. You notice a child standing off to the side. He holds a toy boat carved from bone. The child's eyes are wide with curiosity and wonder, not fear. The child skims the toy across a small pool of water in the courtyard. You realize the ceremony is as much about life as it is about death. The child's play reminds you that every ending carries a beginning. Then the time comes to move the hero to the shore. Two warriors lift the slab onto their shoulders. You fall in step behind them as they march toward the longship drawn up on rollers of green oak. The clan follows in solemn procession. You march between the warriors and the kin. You hold your head high even as your heart breaks. As you approach the ship, you see its carved prow shining in the dawn. Dragon's head and serpent coils learn to guide souls across water. You know the ship will soon be set aflame and sent to sea. But for now it stands silent and proud before the water's edge. You and the others kneel. You place your hand on the hero's shield engraved with his name. You whisper one final farewell. You feel the smooth wood beneath your palm and imagine the waves waiting to carry him onwards. When the prayers end and the final tears are shed, you stand and brace yourself for the flame. The clan steps back. The firewood creaks beneath the builder's heavy hands. But that is for the next part of the journey. For now you remain here at the shore with the hero's memory burning bright in your mind. The final voyage has not yet begun, but the hero's farewell is already complete. You feel the strength of the clan behind you and the promise of the sea before you. And you know you have honored your friend as he deserves. The sun has climbed a little higher, but its warmth does not reach the courtyard. Instead, you feel a chill of anticipation as the clan disperses briefly to gather fresh wood for smoke and kindling. Warriors shuffle toward the longhouse porch to collect carved oaken poles that will brace the hero's bier. You follow with 5 other young men carrying planks of pine, their rough edges still flecked with bark. Each plank is measured to fit the hull of the funeral ship that awaits its burden. You reach the water's edge, where the longship rests on rollers of birch. Its keel gleams wet from the tide. The prow curves in a gentle arc, carved with knotwork and the likeness of a wolf's head at the tip. This vessel was built in secret last winter by skilled craftsmen and hidden in a sheltered cove. Now at last it sees service. A tall carpenter stands at the bow, eyes narrowed in concentration as he guides the first plank into place along the gunwale. He does not speak until the wood settles. Then he hands you the hammer and chisel he used to shape the plank's end, so it will fit snugly against the hull frames. His rough fingers wrap around yours for a moment as he shows you how the wedge cuts just beneath the surface grain. You nod and take the tools. Your touch is light but firm. The first nail goes in with a single rap. A ring echoes across the deck. You feel the solidity of the hull beneath and imagine how it will carry the hero across the waves. You draw the nail down until only its head shows, then move to the next board. The task is steadying, almost soothing. Each swing of the hammer drives you further from the sorrow in your heart and deeper into the ritual that gives it purpose. All around you, the clan works in thoughtful silence. Women tie bundles of birch bark to sprinkle between the logs they pile at the ship's stern. Men carry sturdy oak beams to fashion a platform at midship where the hero's slab will rest. Children hold candles wrapped in red cloth and pass them to their parents, eyes shining at the flickering light. At the stern, a master rigger lifts coils of hemp rope heavy with tar. He unwinds them carefully, then loops them around the rail. These ropes will hold the shields and weapons that decorate the ship's sides. He motions for you to hand him a painted shield with the hero's crest. The shield's paint is bright blue and white, still fresh from the Skald's design. You place it against the rail while he ties it in place, using a series of decorative knots. Each knot he finishes earns a nod from your own hand. You step back and survey the work. The ship is nearly ready. A low bench runs along each side to hold the Fallen's clan as they gather at sea. Already the gunwale is lined with shields alternating with spears that point skyward like silent sentinels. Ropes hang from the mast in careful loops, waiting for the sail that will never billow but will instead serve as kindling when the flames rise. A horn sounds from the shore. It is the call for all to gather one final time before the hero boards. You wipe sawdust from your hands and move toward the circle of kin. The mother stands at the center, a carved wooden bowl in her hand. The bowl holds a mixture of honey and oil that will spread across the planks before the body is laid down. She dips a finger and touches each board with a blessing. This mixture will protect the wood from the fire long enough for the hero's passage and will mask the scent of smoke until the flames crackle. You kneel next to your own family. Your father's hand rests on your shoulder. He presses you forward and speaks your name softly. You rise and carry the hero's axe from the circle. It is his own axe, the blade still nicked from battles past. You hold it by the haft, leather wrapped tight and polished by time. You walk to the prow and thrust the haft into a notch at the bow, letting the blade catch the light. It stands there as a final offering of strength. The blade will not cut again, but it will guide the hero's spirit with its edge toward the setting sun. The Skald steps forward then, greeting the clan in a voice low and melodic. He recites the hero's deeds one by one. You hear your own laughter in his verses when he tells of the night your friend outdrank a berserker and refused to fall, though he tried. You hear softer lines when he speaks of the hero's kindness to the children and his generosity to the poor. Even the children clutch the candle wicks and sway gently to the rhythm of the Skald's words. When the poem ends, the carpenter leads a procession around the ship. Each person touches a plank in turn, leaving a handprint and a prayer. You press your palm to the smooth pine and feel a current of sorrow and hope pass through you. You whisper one last word into the grain before stepping back. Then the drums begin, a steady heartbeat of goatskin and wood. The tempo is slow and solemn. Musicians play horns carved from cattle bone, their notes drifting over the water. The circle closes around the ship, and all raise torches lit from the communal flame at the longhouse hearth. The firelight dances off the shields and axes, casting flickering shadows across the hull. At last the clan boards the vessel. You step up a ramp of logs, feeling the give of the wood beneath your boots. You find a place on the starboard side bench. The mother sits beside you, eyes red but steady. She holds the carved bowl in her lap. You catch her gaze and nod. She dips her finger again and flicks a drop of honey oil onto your hand. You taste its sweetness. It is the last taste of home. The drums slow. The procession ends. The torches lift high. The longship stands ready. You feel the power of the clan in your chest, the collective breath held by every man, woman, and child. You know the moment is upon you. Beyond the ship, the tide pushes gently. The wind even blows favorably now. The ropes slacken. You feel the first tug as the mortise timbers shift against the rollers. You stand to steady yourself. The arch of the hull creaks. You would die for this moment, because now the hero will leave the shore, and you will watch him go. You step into the clearing where the shipwrights work, and the scent of pine mingles with earth and resin. Dawn light filters through towering trunks that will become the planks and beams of the funeral vessel. All around you, men and women move with quiet confidence. They have chosen the finest timber from the sacred grove, trees that have stood for generations, and will now give their strength to carry a fallen hero across the water. An elder stands beside a felled trunk, whose bark is striped with living green and grey. With a slow breath, he cuts a length of willow and wraps it around the trunk. His fingers press the willow, feeling its pulse. He says the tree answers when the time is right. The shipwright nods and draws his axe in a single arc. The wood splits with a long sigh. You feel the grove exhale as one tree falls, and 5 more watch in silence. Carpenters step forward with broad wedges of ash and oak. They slip them between rings of growth, widening the cut until the log yields. Each split hums like the voice of an ancient guardian. You see a young apprentice lean close to examine the grain. His eyes widen as he traces the way the fibers curve around a knot. He whispers a blessing, and you catch the soft words of home and harvest and safe harbor. Even a simple log holds memory and promise. Planks are hauled to the water's edge and stacked in neat rows upon beds of fern and straw. You help lift a wide board onto 2 rollers crafted from elder. As you set it down, you brush away a stray leaf. The underside is smooth, shining with the blood of the tree. You place your hand against it and smell the life that once pulsed within. The board will carry a body to the horizon, yet the touch feels like a living heart. At mid-morning, the master carver arrives with his tools. They are simple: a curved knife, a straight chisel, and a mallet of resin wood. He takes his place at the prow frame, a skeleton of curved beams held high on sawhorses. He runs his hand along the rising curve as though greeting an old friend. Then he pauses, bows his head, and begins his work. The first cut is gentle, almost hesitant. His knife glides through the wood fibers, freeing curls of shavings that spiral to the ground. You watch as the prow takes shape, the long, gentle curve of a serpent's neck, the fierce line of a wolf's maw. This figure will guide the hero into the next world, fierce and protective. The carver's tongue flicks at his lips as he works, drawing runes of protection and passage into the grain. Children gather at a safe distance, clutching wooden toys they have carved themselves. They whisper in wonder as the prow appears beneath the carver's hands. Some of them mimic his strokes in the air with sticks. You smile, remembering when you first learned your craft. The joy in their eyes is a bright spark in a day of solemn labor. As the sun climbs to its zenith, the shipwright organizes the crew to assemble the planking. Long beams of linden are lifted into place against the frames. You lend your strength, guiding each board into its slot. The ship creaks and groans as it takes form. You and a partner drive wooden dowels through overlapping seams, creating a watertight shell. Hot pitch is poured into every crack and smoothed over with a brush of oak bark, sealing the hull against wind and wave. Next, the gunwales are added. Together you fit the carved railing pieces that will hold shields and lanterns. Each section is carved with interwoven knotwork representing life and unity. As you secure one piece, you run your hand over its surface, feeling the raised edges of the design. Each knot symbolizes a bond, unbroken even in death. You pause and think of the hero's family, and you pray that those bonds will keep them strong through the sorrow to come. With the hull nearly complete, the mast partner steps forward. He lays down a long pole of spruce hewn straight and true. You help him raise it through a hole in the deck. Men lift on ropes until the mast stands upright, towering over the clearing like a central pillar of the clan's faith. Ropes and spars are lashed into place, each knot tied thrice for strength and luck. You test the tension and feel the mast respond beneath your touch, ready to bear sail or flame. At mid-afternoon, the funeral ship is whole. It rests on its cradle of rollers, a vessel born for one final passage. Warriors stand in respect, knowing this ship carries more than wood and rope. It carries memory and honor and the hope of safe journey. Children stand at the edges and pass amongst themselves small tokens ready for the voyage. You watch one boy hand another a carved sparrow and whisper that it will guide the hero's spirit home. Finally, the clan elder circles the ship, scattering fresh spruce boughs to mask the scent of resin. He steps forward and lays a wreath of woven grasses at the foot of the prow. He speaks words of release and safe passage, of winds that will invite the hero through the gates of the next world. You feel the finality settle in your bones as the ceremony concludes. You step back and survey the work. The carver's knife lays still on the deck. The hull shines faintly with pitch. The mast rises against the sky like a triumphant spear. The ship is ready, and so are you. A cool breeze drifts in from the fjord as the hull stands fully planked and pitch-sealed. But the work is far from done. Now the craftsmen turn their attention below the deck, to the keelson and ribs that must bear the weight of both wood and warrior on one last journey. You descend a ladder into the half-finished hold. The scent of fresh pine and warm pitch rises around you. Beams of birch and elm cross overhead, tied with tarred rope. Sunlight filters through small gaps, illuminating dust motes that swirl like spirits in the air. Your boots thump softly against the planks as you step forward. At the center of the hold, two master shipwrights lift a length of oak milled into a curved rib. They guide it into a slot between the hull frames. With a steady rhythm, one drives a wooden mallet against a tusked wedge until the rib fits tight. You hand them more wedges as they shift and tap until the wood settles without gaps. You slide your fingers along the seam. It is smooth and solid, a testament to their skill. Workers pass you curved timbers to form the double benches that line each side. These benches will seat the hero's kin and the most honored warriors. You fit one bench in place, watching as it follows the hull's graceful curve. A child hands you a brush, and you coat each beam with boiled linseed oil. The wood darkens to a rich amber, ready to glow in torchlight and prayers. Near the bow carpenters carve the dragon's head prow into finer detail. You pause to admire the half-carved open jaws, where later the hero's banner will hang. The carver pauses and passes you a cloth. It is soaked in flaxseed oil that protects the wood. You wipe your brow and your hands, then take a chisel and carve a small rune of safe passage above the dragon's eye. The carver nods approval. It is done with reverence, not words. On deck, the rigging team begins hoisting the mighty yardarm. 3 warriors haul ropes in unison, and the yard swings into place above the beams you helped install. You step forward with a coil of rope to lash it fast. Each turn binds the mast and yardarm together like a pact. You pull each loop tight, grinding your knuckles against the rail. The yardarm holds firm. The next task is the sail. A team of sewing women spreads the enormous square of linen across a long bench. It is unbleached, heavy with the smell of flax and water. Sturdy threads of hemp run along the edges. They stitch in long rows, knot by knot, until the cloth can withstand wind and flame alike. You kneel beside them and tighten each stitch. Your fingers roar from pulling the hemp through thick linen. As you work, one woman hums a gentle melody. It lulls you into focus, letting you lose track of time. You look up to see her smile, and you feel warmth even in the chill air of the hold. She ties off her last knot and hands the sail to 2 strong arms. They carry it up a ladder, while you follow with the rope that will secure it. At the deck hatch, you pause to catch your breath. The sky has clouded over. Drops of rain spatter the deckboards. You tighten your cloak and look back down the fjord. A small gathering of women and children stand on shore watching the ship's progress. You return their nod, feeling the weight of their hopes in your chest. Back below deck, you join a group fitting the thwarts that will support the hero's slab. Each thwart is carved from sturdy elm and shaped to cradle the wooden bier. You lift one into place and shim it with thin strips of ash until it rests level. Then you hammer in wooden pins to lock it. The brigade steps back to admire the symmetry of the 6 supports, each spaced for strength and dignity. You climb back up into the hold as the thunder rumbles overhead. The rain intensifies, tapping a steady drum on the deck above. Water drips through tiny crevices despite the pitch. But the hold remains dry, a sanctuary of sacred purpose. Outside, the master shipwright shouts an order, and a team breaks out oars. They slide them in storage brackets along the gunwale. Each oar is balanced, carved from willow for flexibility and strength. You lift one and feel its familiar shape in your hands. You lean the paddle against your shoulder, remembering how you learned to row last summer. You smile at the memory before setting it back in place. A drummer strikes a single beat on a carved log. It echoes through the hold and across the deck. The signal is clear. Work is done for now. Everyone emerges, dripping with rain and stinging with exertion. You join the line as the clan gathers once more around the ship. Torches are raised and placed in iron stands along the rail. Flames flicker across the timber, revealing glistening pitch and the carved knotwork along the beams. The dragon's head prow glows in the torchlight, fierce and watchful. The clan elder steps forward and holds a bowl of clear water. He sighs with a voice shaped by centuries of tradition. He sprinkles each oar, each beam, and each carved rune with a few drops. The water hisses on the pitch, carrying whispered blessings of safe passage. Women step forward with bowls of barley and salt. They scatter each handful across the deck. Each grain represents the hero's final sustenance. You reach for a handful and drop a few grains between the timbers. The rest you leave for the birds and the wind. Children place candles in iron lanterns and hand them to their mothers and fathers. The lanterns hang along the rail, casting pools of warmth. You hold your own inching flame near your face and stare at its dance. You think of the hero's bright spirit, now guiding you all to this moment. Finally, the clan forms a circle around the ship. The skald steps forward once more and recites a dirge, quiet and steady. His words speak of journeys across storm and calm, of heroes lost and found in Valhalla's halls. His voice carries beyond the torches, up toward the clouds and over the silent fjord. When he finishes, you feel the shift in the air. The ship is complete in both body and spirit. It holds the prayers of your people. It bears the strength of trees and the hope of clans. It stands ready for one final voyage. You step back and look at your hands. They are streaked with resin and pitch. Each line in your palm is a memory of this day. You flex your fingers and feel a quiet pride. You have shaped this vessel. You have honored the hero. You have sealed your own bond to the sea. Tomorrow you will gather once more at dawn. You will carry the hero aboard. You will light the pyre. Flames will rise and send him on his way. But for now you stand in rain and torchlight, surrounded by kin, and know that the ship will carry him safely, and you will watch as it disappears into the horizon. The morning air hums with quiet purpose as kin and comrades gather their finest offerings. You walk among them and see tables draped in cloth woven from flax and dyed in bright reds and blues. On each table lie treasures meant to guide the fallen into the next world. You feel the weight of tradition pressing gently on your shoulders as you prepare your own gift. At the first table, warriors lay down their weapons, axes polished to a mirror sheen and swords whose blades have tasted battle. You approach an elder who holds his son's newly forged blade. The weapon's edge glimmers like the dawn. He places it into your hands and says that it will cut through shadows and steel alike, guiding the hero to Valhalla's golden halls. You bow and accept the blade. Its leather grip is firm beneath your fingers, and you feel both sorrow and pride. Next to the axes lie shields engraved with clan symbols. Faces of wolves and dragons swirl around each iron boss. You run your hand over the carved wood and feel the grooves left by the smith's chisel. This shield will travel on the ship's rail, so the winds themselves will know the hero's name. A young woman steps forward and ties a colored ribbon around the shield's handle. She tells you that the ribbon contains strands of her hair and the bright color of her laughter. You smile and help secure the ribbon, knowing that even laughter can light the path ahead. Jewelry is gathered at another table. Bracelets of silver, inscribed with runes, protect against evil spirits. Neck-talks of twisted bronze speak of wealth and kinship. A small brooch in the shape of a raven is passed from hand to hand until it reaches you. You remember gifting it to the hero at midsummer when the mead was sweet and the laughter flowed like rivers. You pin the raven brooch onto the hero's cloak with reverence. It will ride the flames with him as a constant reminder of your bond. Children place tokens next. A carved whistle shaped like a fish so the hero may hear the song of waves in the beyond. A tiny wooden boat so he will remember the feel of wind in his hair and salt on his lips. A painted pebble from the riverbank near the longhouse so he will carry a piece of home in his hand. You lift the whistle and hold it to your ear. You hear an echo of summer laughter. You smile and tuck the pebble into your pocket for luck. On a low bench, you see vessels of mead and wine. Some jars are sealed with wax, others covered in linen tied with twine. You lift one and feel its weight. You know each drop was offered from a full heart. You taste a tiny drop on your finger. Warm honey flows across your tongue. You smile and pour a small measure into a shallow bowl. This will spill across the hero's brow and lips before the flames rise. The taste of home and celebration will linger even in ash. At the end of the courtyard, a long table holds embroidered banners. Each banner tells a story in color and thread. Great hunting scenes, fierce battles, and peaceful gatherings. You unroll a banner given by your own mother. It was stitched over winter evenings by the hearth while stories flowed around her. You see your own braid entwined in the design beside the hero's face, and your heart swells. You fold the banner carefully and pass it to the clan elder. It will drape across the hero's body when he sails away. A warrior steps forward with a small bag of herbs and dried flowers. He sprinkles lavender for calm, and rosemary for remembrance, and thyme for courage. The petals will burn bright in the pyre's hot glow, and the scent will guide the hero through the smoky veil. You kneel to help spread the blossoms over the offerings. The mixture of scents drifts upward, reminding you that even in grief there is beauty and life. Near the shore, a group of musicians stands ready with their instruments. A lyre carved from maple, a drum made of goatskin, and a horn of polished ivory. They tune their strings and tighten their hides. Soon their melodies will drift across the waves, drawing the hero's spirit onward. You pause to listen to the gentle hum of the lyre and smile at its clear tone. Music is a gift that carries memory like a boat carries souls. A final offering waits on a low stool. It is a simple loaf of bread and a block of cheese wrapped in linen. The baker kneels beside it and sprinkles salt on the crust. He tells you that bread and cheese will fill the hero's belly if the voyage is long or if he finds welcoming halls in the afterlife. You lift the loaf and breathe in its yeast and grain. You taste the salt on your lips and feel gratitude for every meal shared at home. As the sun reaches its zenith, the clan gathers once more. Each gift is laid upon the slab beside the hero. The sword, the shield, the brooch, the whistle, the banners, the mead, the flowers, and the simple bread and cheese. They form a mosaic of memory and hope. You stand back and watch the circle close in around these treasures. Your heart is full and heavy, and you know that these offerings will carry the hero into eternity. The skald steps forward again. He chants a blessing upon each gift in turn. The sword wards off evil. The shield offers protection. The jewelry links clan and hero. The tokens preserve laughter. The mead and bread. The nurture strength. The banners hold memory. The flowers guide the way. And the music will echo in the hero's heart forever. You feel a single tear roll down your cheek, and you do not wipe it away. This moment is perfect in its pain and beauty. The treasures of honor shine in the midday sun, and you know the hero walks among them even now. And when the time comes, the clan will carry him aboard the ship and send him on his final voyage, bearing every gift you have laid down today. The sky shifts toward afternoon as the song of the skald fades into the bustle of preparation. You watch warriors secure swords and shields to the ship's rail until every blade catches the sun. But your task lies with the smaller treasures, the tokens woven through life and story. You step forward to the table where fine jewelry waits, necklaces of gold and silver glint amid ribbons of silk. A woman hands you a delicate torque shaped like twisted serpents. She tells you it belonged to her grandmother, who wore it on her wedding day and never took it off again. She passes it into your hands. with a sigh that speaks of love and loss. You nod and place it gently among the other gifts. You know someone will carry it once the pyre's flames have died down, an heirloom reborn from the fire. Next, you see pouches of amber beads carved from fossilized resin. Their honey glow catches your gaze. An elder steps to your side and explains that each bead represents a year lived. He has dozens more at home, but he brings just 5 to honor the hero's 5 winters of service. He threads a small length of sinew through the beads and ties a knot at each end. You hold the completed necklace up against the hero's wrist. It will clasp onto the cloak sleeve and jingle softly as the ship moves into the tide. Nearby, a youth offers carved bone talismans. They are small and smooth, shaped like raven heads and bear claws. The youth says he found the bones on a hunt long ago and carved them by torchlight, praying they would bring strength. You pick up a talisman and feel its weight, cool and solid. You press it into your palm as though testing the metal, then tie it to the belt loop near your waist. You smile at the youth who beams with pride. Even small hands can shape fate. A merchant presents ornate brooches of oval design set with glass and semi-precious stones. He moves with careful grace, offering them one at a time. Each brooch is a small story, reflecting sky or stone or wave. You select one depicting a rising sun, its glass center tinted amber and red. You pin it to the hero's cloak beside the raven brooch you placed earlier. The two together will shine in the fire's glow, marking the hero's passage from dawn greeting to twilight journey. Children press forward again with gifts of personal meaning. A boy extends a wooden flute he carved himself, its notes once tested under the stars. A girl offers a length of braided hair she tied with a ribbon of violet. She explains that it grew long and strong like the hero's legacy. You tuck the flute and hair bundle into a small leather pouch and hang it from your neck. Their innocence and creativity remind you that honor can bloom even amid sorrow. On the ground, you notice a small pile of coins left by merchants who could not attend the farewell. A rune is scratched on each coin's face, a mark to guide the hero's wealth into the next realm. You lift a handful and bury them between the slats of the ship's floorboards. They will rattle softly beneath each step and remind future souls that generosity defies death. The tables are nearly bare now, but one final treasure remains. A simple wooden harp rests at the corner. Its frame is polished but worn by many hands. Strings of horsehair are tuned to that perfect resonance. The skald approaches it and places gentle fingers on the strings. He plays a soft melody that rises and falls like the tides. The notes echo across the courtyard and settle in your chest like a promise. As the last echoes fade, you feel the circle close. The treasures lie arrayed on the hero's slab. They are weapons that fought beside him, jewelry that bound him to kin, tokens carved from memory, flavors of home, and melodies of the soul. Each item carries a prayer and a hope that the hero will carry them forward. You kneel and place your own offering last. It is a small carved whale tooth, tied with leather. It belonged to your first shipmate, lost in a raid long ago. You bind the leather securely, then slide the tooth beneath the hero's head. May it whisper of loyalty and companionship as the voyage begins again. Around you, the clan murmurs prayers. You rise and step back, letting the elder speak the final blessing over the offerings. Water from the holy spring is splashed across each treasure. Firebrands borrowed from the hearth flame are passed from hand to hand, each lighting a torch for the upcoming ceremony. You feel your own torchlight flame brush your cheek. You lift it high. You look to the prow of the ship, where the dragon's head waits. You see the flicker of torchlight in its carved eyes and smile. The treasures of honor will travel into the heart of flame and wind and sea. They will guide the hero to his fate, and they will remain as living proof of love and respect. At last, the gathering breaks, and the clan moves toward the shore. You step forward alongside kin and comrades, leaving the cleared tables behind. The treasures rest in their places. The master carver steps aboard and straps the hero's slab in the hold. Warriors lift shields and weapons to the rails. The ship creaks beneath their weight. Ready. You board last. You stand by the mast and breathe the scent of pine and pitch and offerings that will never fade. You feel the treasures whisper warmth and memory into the wood. And you know the voyage can begin. You feel your own torchlight flame brush your cheek. You lift it high. You look to the prow of the ship, where the dragon's head waits. You see the flicker of torchlight in its carved eyes and smile. The treasures of honor will travel into the heart of flame and wind and sea. They will guide the hero to his fate, and they will remain as living proof of love and respect. At last the gathering breaks, and the clan moves toward the shore. You step forward alongside kin and comrades, leaving the cleared tables behind. The treasures rest in their places. The master carver steps aboard and straps the hero's slab in the hold. Warriors lift shields and weapons to the rails. The ship creaks beneath their weight. Ready, you board last. You stand by the mast and breathe the scent of pine and pitch and offerings that will never fade. You feel the treasures whisper warmth and memory into the wood. And you know the voyage can begin. The sun sinks low behind distant pines as the clan gathers once more. A long communal table has been erected near the ship's prow, its surface hewn from joined oak boards. Torches flicker in iron sconces along the table's edge, casting dancing light on eager faces. The time has come for the Feast of Passage, a meal to honor the fallen and to bind the living to their memory before the final flames rise. You step forward with a bowl of steaming broth. Inside float chunks of root vegetables and tender goat meat freshly roasted on the spit. A warrior ladles a portion into your bowl and bows his head in deference. You accept it and feel the warmth flow down your throat. This broth carries salt and herbs grown in your village garden. It carries sweat and laughter from every hand that stirred it. You taste all of that with the savory meat. Across the table, a butcher stands at the spit. Flames crackle beneath a half-goat, turning slowly on a spit of ash wood. The animal's skin has blistered to a fine crisp, revealing glistening flesh beneath. You watch as he pulls the meat free in wide slices, laying them on a broad board. He waves his knife in the air and calls out to the clan. The feast begins. You move down the table, passing plates of roasted vegetables seasoned with juniper berries and wild thyme. You hand a plate to the hero's mother, and she nods her thanks, tears glimmering at the corners of her eyes. She lifts a handful of meat and holds it before the fire for a moment. It sizzles in a blessed hush. Then she sets it before her lips and eats. You admire her strength. A cask of mead stands at the head of the table. A ladle hangs ready. A youth steps forward, dips the ladle into the golden liquid, and pours into wooden cups. He moves with ceremony, his eyes steady. You accept a cup and raise it high. The mead is cool and sweet, with honey and wildflower. You tip the cup to your mouth and let its warmth fill your belly. At your side sits the skald. He raises his own cup and speaks a toast in a clear voice, his words dripping like rain upon thirsty soil. He praises the hero's courage and kindness. He calls upon the gods of sea and sky to guide the hero onward. You raise your cup in response, and all cups clink in a single chord of solidarity. The feast takes on a rhythm of its own. Hands pass plates and share loaves of coarse, dark bread. Laughter mingles with tears. Stories rise like sweet incense. A young warrior recounts how the hero once rode his horse through a midnight storm to deliver news of danger. An elder remembers the hero's gentle hand on the newborn's brow. Children giggle as they beg for another taste of honeyed mead or a morsel of spit-roasted goat. You walk among them, offering food and mead. You pause by the ship's rail where shields and spears glint in torchlight. You imagine the hero seated here once, laughing and singing with you all. You press a plate of meat into the hands of a weary seaman, and smile as he clutches it gratefully. Then the music begins. Drummers strike steady rhythms on goatskin drums. Horn players lift carved horns to their lips and blow a deep call that resonates across the water. A chorus of voices rises in a simple song of farewell. The melody is ancient and strong, winding its way through every heart. You close your eyes and let the tune carry you back to summer nights around the hearth. When the song ends, the clan settles again for more feasting. A woman offers you a small bowl of spiced milk and barley, a porridge carried from your childhood. You taste it and feel memories of winter days by the stove. You pass the bowl along so that each person can share this quiet blessing. Beyond the table, the fire pit crackles. Wood sprayed with resin sends sparks skyward in a golden hail. Children gather around the fire and toss small sprigs of pine into the flames. The needles hiss and sputter before melting into ash. They giggle at each tiny flare, their faces glowing like tiny lanterns. You approach the fire pit with one final offering, a large wheel of aged cheese wrapped in cloth. The hero loved this cheese best. You place the wheel upon a flat stone at the fire's edge. Slowly the heat melts its edges, and you watch the first drops of golden oil seep into the stone. You turn the cheese so each side roasts. The scent is rich and nutty and carries across the feast. A warrior skims the melted cheese by spoonfuls into cups and hands them to each guest. You take yours and draw the warm liquid to your lips. The taste is deep and earthy. You close your eyes and sigh, feeling the world slow around you. The mother steps forward again, this time to break the loaf of bread. She lifts it high and snaps it in two. Crumbs fall like silver rain. She tears off a piece and lays it upon the hero's shield at the ship's rail, blessing the shield and calling out in a voice both fierce and gentle, "May this bread nourish your soul and feed your strength on the voyage beyond." Then she asks all to do the same. One by one, every member of the clan breaks bread and places a piece on the shield. The rail bends under the sacrament of grain and hands raised in solidarity. You feel the power of those gestures, a current running from shore to ship and into the future. Finally, the feast draws to a close. Plates are emptied, cups drained, and shadows grow long. The fire at the pit burns low. The torches lean in the breeze. A hush falls once more as the skald lifts his voice for the final blessing. He speaks of heroes past and those yet to come. He calls upon ancestors to welcome the fallen and to stand guard against the darkness. His words echo in the courtyard and across the fjord. You bow your head and feel the weight of every gift you have helped gather. The roasted goat, the mead, the bread, the cheese, and every token of honor carried by loved hands. You know these offerings will carry the hero's spirit and bind the clan together even as he sails away. You step back from the table and let the others file past you toward the ship. You linger for one last look at the feast remains. Wooden bowls waiting to be cleaned, skewers and platters scattered like fallen stars. You hear a child ask for another morsel, and you smile. Even here life persists. You turn and follow the clan to the water's edge. Ahead is the stage for the final rite. Soon the flames will rise and carry both hero and treasures into legend. But for now you carry the fullness of the feast in your heart, a living memory of smoke and salt and shared warmth on the edge of the next world. A cool dusk breeze lifts the scent of roast and mead to mingle with pine smoke. Torches flicker along the railing of the ship, ready to bear the fallen hero's slab. The feast has drawn to its close, but a final act remains. Warriors and kin move to the prow, each bearing one last offering. You step forward with the carved drinking horn you filled at dawn, its rim still sticky with honeyed mead. The wind has died to a hush that only carries the lap of water against the hull. The dragon's head prow creaks as the ship shifts on its cradle. You place your horn on the stone rail beside the hero's axe. A warrior next to you sets down a leather satchel of dried berries. Another lays a length of braided wool dyed red. Each gift glints in the torchlight, each story woven into the fabric of farewell. The skald lifts his voice again in a final chant. Its melody is low and reverent. You catch the syllables on your tongue and hum along quietly. This song speaks of passage through fire, wind, and water. It speaks of valor that endures beyond death. It carries the hero's name up into the darkening sky. When the chant finishes, the elder steps forward one last time. He holds a bowl of clear water drawn from the sacred spring at home. He dips his fingers in and lets droplets fall upon the gathered offerings. Each drop sizzles on the hot stone, hissing with blessing. He speaks a final blessing of safe harbor on the journey beyond life. Then he turns his gaze to the shore and raises his arms. The clan echoes his gesture, lamplight flickering across their faces. Silence falls as every voice stills. You feel the hush settle like a cloak. The only sound is the breathing of your own chest and the distant rustle of pine needles. You look at the hero's slab and imagine him at peace. You imagine him reclining upon this bounty, tasting every flavor one last time, hearing every song as the sky darkens. A sudden crack of firebrand on oak shatters the silence. A warrior steps forward carrying the ember that will ignite the pyre. The flame dances on the wood, tiny and bright. He bends and touches it to a pile of resin, soaked kindling at the stern. A spark catches and flames leap upward with a crackle and flare. A hush falls again, then stirs into murmurs of awe as the fire takes hold. The logs beneath the kindling glow red and orange. Flames climb hungrily, licking at beams and planks until the stern becomes a roaring furnace. The heat pushes you back, but you do not step away. You stand firm and watch. The torches at the prow are extinguished one by one. Their fires pass from hand to hand until only embers remain. Each ember is pressed to a torch by a warrior who then shares it with another. This act binds every soul present to the hero's fate. You hold your torch high and feel its warmth cut through the damp air. The first torch is laid across the hero's slab. It cracks the stone and sets the wood ablaze. Smoke spirals into the sky, carrying prayers and stories beyond the mountains. The slab of wood bursts into flame, sending tongues of fire upward. The treasures of honor catch too. The torque of twisted bronze melts and glows. The amber beads shine like captured suns. The tapestries and banners curl and blaze like tapestries of light. You hear cries of farewell and blessing. You hear the mother call the hero's name, in a voice both broken and proud. You hear children's laughter ring through the smoke as sparks drift like fireflies. You feel the heat on your face and taste the smoke in your mouth. And in that moment, you understand the power of this ritual. The flames rise higher. The roar of fire fills your ears. The shields along the rail glow red and black. The mast groans as heat curves around its base. You step forward closer to the rail. You want to touch the fire, but you know the flames will burn flesh and spirit alike. A warrior next to you lifts the horn you placed there. He raises it and shouts a final toast. He calls to the gods of wind, fire, and sea to guide the hero onward. He drains the horn and hurls the remaining mead into the fire. It hisses and adds its sweetness to the blaze. You see the hero's cloak catch fire and billow like a flag of flame. You close your eyes for a heartbeat, remembering the hero's laughter, the feel of his hand on your shoulder. Then you open them and see the fire dancing higher still, a column of light and smoke reaching for the stars. Slowly the flames consume the hero's slab. The treasures of honor melt into ash or blaze into embers. The dragon's head prow glows like molten metal. The entire ship becomes a funeral pyre. Its edges glow white hot. You stand beside your kin and watch as the flames carry all you offered into the sky. The fire roars louder, then steadies. It hums like a living thing. The clan remains silent, caught in the transformation. You feel the warmth in your bones and the heat of grief and release mingled together. At last the fire begins to die back, burning down through the logs to black coals. Sparks drift off out to sea. You see shapes in the embers as they fade. The dragon's head prow glows one last time before dimming into darkness. The clan gathers once more in a circle. You join them at the prow, facing the coals and the still water beyond. The skald steps forward again. His voice is soft now. He speaks of remembrance and continuation. He chants a final verse, asking for the hero's tales to live on in every hearth and hall. You lift your own voice to answer. You chant the hero's name and deeds. You feel the words rise from your gut and echo across the water. Others join in, each name and deed carried outward as a living flame in memory. When the chant ends, you bow your head. The coals glow red and orange, like dying embers of a world. You feel your tears fall onto the deck. You feel your heart full of sorrow and pride, and the fierce joy of having loved ones so well. Slowly you step away. The circle loosens and clan members drift back to shore, guided by lamplight and shared sorrow. You linger at the rail, staring at the glowing coals. You imagine the hero's spirit traveling beyond the horizon, carrying every gift and story you laid down. The fire dies to grey ash. You see splinters of metal and charred cloth among the coals. You scoop a handful and let it scatter into the water. The ash drifts away on the tide like tiny ghosts unbound. You turn to follow the clan, carrying the memory of flame and feast in your bones. The ritual feast of passage is complete. The hero's voyage has begun. The embers of honor still burn in your heart, and you know that as long as you remember the feast, the hero will sail on in every song and every tale. The sky reddens as dusk settles over the fjord. You stand at the prow of the funeral ship, the carved wolf's head prow now blackened by smoke and ash, but still proud against the darkening sky. Torches line the railing where shields and treasures once gleamed. The fire pit at the stern has burned down to embers that glow like scattered coals of memory. Tonight you will set the entire vessel ablaze. Behind you, the clan gathers in a wide semicircle on the pebbled shore. Faces are illuminated by torchlight, each reflecting grief and resolve. Children clutch small torches of their own, too young to understand everything but drawn by the warmth and ritual. Warriors stand tall in their mail, hands on axe hafts and spear shafts. Women hold woven wands of birch dipped in oil, ready to ignite the final blaze. You step forward among them, heart pounding with the weight of purpose. The skald raises his horn and blows a single long note. Its vibration reverberates through your chest, calling the clan to stillness. You hear each breath held, and every foot shift as silence descends. The only sound is the faint lapping of waves against hull and shore. You feel the hush fold around you like a cloak. The clan elder steps forward, carrying a bowl of water drawn from the sacred spring. He moves with deliberate grace, haloed by torchlight. In his free hand, he holds a handful of ash from the fire pit. He cleanses the prow with water and ash, murmuring an ancient blessing. You lean forward to catch the words, "Safe passage through flame, wind and sea, nothing can harm your spirit." The ash casts little grey circles on your boots. When the elder finishes, you see him hold a simple torch carved from oak soaked in resin. Its tip burns bright even in the dying light. He passes the torch to the warrior standing at the rail. That warrior steps across the gap to the ship's deck, balancing carefully on the rollers that will soon carry the hull away. You watch each measured movement, as though time has slowed. The warrior reaches the bow and turns. He raises the torch high so everyone can see. A hush falls again. He closes his eyes. He bows his head. You bow yours. In this moment, each soul present offers one final prayer. The warrior strikes the torch downward across the prow's carved surface. Sparks fly. The resin catches and flames leap up. The dragon's head glows orange and red against the slate sky. A fierce snarl of fire surges from open jaws, as if the carved beast has come alive to welcome its rider. You feel the heat on your face and taste smoke on your tongue. The scent of burning resin and pine stings your nostrils. You hold your breath and stare at the prow's flames climbing toward the mast. Behind the prow, the warrior lights the beams that support the hull. A ring of flames springs up under each beam, spreading quickly along the hull seams. The resin pitch sizzles loudly, crackling like a chorus of voices. You close your eyes for a moment. You feel the tremor of heat wave beneath your feet. You imagine the ship's timbers sighing as they surrender to flame. Around you, the clan reacts. Some raise their torches higher. Others lay them to the ground and stand in silence. A woman weeps, but does not turn away. A warrior grips his axe and stares into the fire as though solving a riddle in flickering light. A child holds a small stick and pokes the air as if challenging the flames to dance. The fire races along the gunwale. Shields catch the blaze and glow white hot. Weapons strapped to the rails melt or warp. The hull's carved knotwork blazes in swirling patterns before turning to molten black rivulets that drip into the sea. You step back from the prow and walk to the stern. The fire's roar fills your ears. Smoke billows upward, twisting into a dark column that stretches toward the first stars. Embers drift off like fleeting thoughts. You shield your eyes and look at the glowing core of the ship, now a furnace of memory and farewell. The wood beneath you thrums with heat. The elder begins a chant, low and resonant. He repeats a verse of rune signs calling for protection, transformation, and rebirth. The words roll over the flames, shaping the fire into a living ritual. You join in softly, letting the chant slip from your lips. You feel a connection with every soul present, every ancestor who commanded fire's power before you. The fire answers with a flicker and surge, as though accepting the chant as its own song. The skald steps forward once more, his voice rising above the crackle of flames. He names each gift laid upon the ship and each life honored. He calls out the hero's deeds in verse. His words ride on the blaze like sparks, carrying memory and honor upward. You repeat each line in your mind, tasting its rhythm, letting it bind you to this moment. A sudden gust of wind sweeps down the fjord. The flames flare and roar, surging higher along the hull until the ship is a pillar of fire. You feel the heat on your skin, even through cloak and mail. You lean into the wind and pray it carries the hero's spirit eastward where the sun sleeps. At last, the chanting ends. The clan falls silent beside the roaring pyre. The embers burn bright against the night. You step forward with the final torch. Your hands tremble, but your eyes burn with resolve. You raise the torch and touch the embers at the stern, where the last offerings lie. Sparks fly and tiny fires catch in the piled kindling. You spread the torch across the beams until the stern erupts in flames once more. A wave of heat washes over you. You step back and close your eyes for an instant, feeling the radiance seep into your bones. You hear the sea lap at the shore. You feel the earth tremble beneath your boots. You feel the hero's spirit carried on smoke and wind. When you reopen your eyes, the ship is fully alight. Flames dance along every plank and spar. The dragon's head prow belches fire like a mythic beast. The hull is a burning heart, floating on the water. You stare in wonder, struck by the beauty born of sorrow. Then you step back and let the clan turn away. The vigil continues into the night, but your part is done. You bow your head once more and whisper a final prayer in the rune chant's lingering echo. May your voyage be swift, may your battles be noble, may your halls be bright with song. You turn and make your way from the shore, leaving the burning pyre to carry the hero into legend. The fire glows like a beacon across the fjord, and you know its light will shine in your memory until your own final voyage. The flames have reached their zenith, and now roll in deep waves across the ship's blackened hull. Smoke pours skyward, painting the stars in amber and ash. You stand at the edge of the shore, torch in hand, as the clan forms a silent ring around the fiery vessel. The roar feels like a living thing that must be witnessed, honored, and released. Behind you, the elder steps forward, lifting his staff high. He stamps it against the ground, and the clan bows their heads. His voice rises above crackle of flame and hiss of smoke. He recites the final rune verse of release. Words tumble like stones cast into a still lake. You close your eyes and feel the vibrations in your chest. Each syllable unties one knot of grief. Each beat carries the hero's spirit farther from sight. When the elder's chant ends, a hush falls. Even the children still their shifting and scent of smoke. You hear a single raven croak in the distance, and the faint lap of waves against the burning timbers. The moment stretches until time seems to stand still. Then someone begins to sing a lament, a low minor incantation that weaves sorrow and celebration. A dozen voices join. The melody is plaintive and slow, winding like smoke through the pines. You add your voice, shaky at first, then stronger as memories carry you. You sing of the hero's deeds of laughter, of courage, of sacrifice. You sing of the ties that bind clan to clan and life to life. Beneath the lament, you feel the fierce pulse of the drums from earlier, now distant but still present in your heart. As the lament fades, the clan turns its face away from the fire. You follow their lead, stepping onto the narrow path leading back to the longhouse. Torches bob behind you in ghostly procession. Sparks drift off into the sky. The ship no longer sears the eyes, but simmers in its own glow. You sense the final chapter closing. On the path, a woman kneels. She holds a basket of river stones, smooth pebbles gathered that morning. Each person carries one and places it in the water beside the burning ship. The stones mark every soul gathered and leave a trace that cannot be erased. You reach into the basket and choose a stone the color of moonlight. You carry it forward and dip it into the cold fjord. You feel a sudden chill in your hand. The ripple from the stone circles out across the water, merging with the smoke above. Children scamper beside you, dipping their own stones. They laugh when the stones skip once and sink. Their laughter is fragile and fierce, and reminds you that survival is not only sorrow but also hope. Beyond the water's edge, warriors stand with lowered shields. A young fighter steps forward, raising a whetstone in one hand and the hero's sword hilt in the other. He grinds the blade edge, bringing it to life one final time. Sparks fly. Then he reverses the blade and taps its flat against the whetstone, singing a short vow of remembrance. He hands the sword to the hero's kin. They lift it overhead in solemn salute. You bow your head and feel the blade's weight in your heart. Women gather next to a low bench where food offerings remain. Roasted bones lie in a cast iron cauldron. Breadcrumbs drift across the stone like fallen petals. A mother scoops the last of the porridge from its pot and spreads it upon a flat rock. She sprinkles barley over its surface and sprinkles honey in a star pattern. She murmurs a blessing for endless sustenance beyond the grave. You watch her cheeks shine in torchlight and know that love tastes sweeter than any feast. The clan begins to disperse down the path. Some return to the longhouse, others linger at the water's edge. You stand still until the last torch flickers out. Only the embers glow now, red eyes in a dark forest. You feel the pull of kinship and loss and memory. You take one last breath of smoky air. Then you turn and begin the walk home. Your cloak feels heavy with soot and emotion. Your boots leave prints in the damp earth. Each step carries you away from the pyre but deeper into the circle of memory forged by flame. Behind you, the fire diminishes to black coals. A crackle here and there reminds you that even as smoke drifts to the heavens, embers remain. They will die in time or slip beneath the water. But tonight they burn bright enough to guide the hero's spirit and warm every heart left on shore. You reach the longhouse door and pause. The clan stands in the warm glow of its hearth fire, Faces are uplifted for welcome comfort and the camaraderie of shared fate. You step inside and feel the heat wash over you. The scent of wool and fur mingles with the smoke smell clinging to your cloak. Someone hands you a bowl of warm soup. You accept it gratefully, the simple act of receiving comfort so full of meaning now. As you taste the broth, you close your eyes and see flames dancing across the fjord. You hear the echo of chants and the crackle of timbers. You feel the pulse of hearts bound together by ritual. You know that the hero's voyage has begun, and that you, and everyone gathered this night, will carry his memory forward in every telling of the tale. Tonight the pyre has gone silent. The ship rests in ashes upon the water's edge. Yet the sacrifice remains alive in flame shaped by hope, grief, and honor. And you will remember this night as long as stars shine above the waves. Night has settled heavy over the longhouse. Torches line the walls and cast amber pools of light across the flagstone floor. The clan gathers in concentric circles around a low dais. On that dais stands the hero's broken sword and battered shield draped in his cloak. Tonight, the skalds will speak his name and summon his memory with verse and chant. You take your place among the front circles. Your cloak is still damp with smoke from the pyre, but the hearth fire inside crackles warmth into your bones. You feel the weight of expectant eyes around you. This is a sacred vigil. Every word spoken will carry the hero toward legendary halls. The first skald steps forward. His beard is streaked with grey, and his voice is low and steady. He holds a single horn carved from cattle bone, and inlays of silver runes catch the torchlight. He lifts the horn to his lips and blows a steady note. The sound resonates in your chest and echoes down every corridor until the longhouse itself seems to breathe in time with the song. When the horn fades, he begins his tale. His voice rolls out in waves. He speaks of the hero's lineage. He describes the wind in his hair on his very first journey to sea. He names the battles he fought and the comrades he defended. You close your eyes and see each deed unfold in your mind. You feel the hero's strength in every word. When the skald finishes, he lifts the horn again, a single long note that carries the story skyward. A second skald rises. His face is young and earnest. He steps close to the dais and holds the hero's shield in both hands. He begins to speak the saga of the hero's travels across frozen fjords and misted bays. He recounts the cunning raid on the far shore where the hero tricked watchmen with a flaming torch and freed 40 captives. He names each captive and calls them by their new names given in gratitude. His voice flows with gratitude and triumph. You feel a surge of pride. You knew some of those captives, and now they stand immortal in the skald's verse. When the second tale ends, the young skald hands the shield to a child kneeling by the dais. The child lifts it high and bows. The shield's paint has melted in the fire, but now it shines anew in memory. The clan murmurs blessings. You feel the heat of their breath like gentle flames of support. A third skald steps forward. He does not begin with war or journey. He speaks of kindness. He tells of the time the hero found a lost traveler shivering in a snowdrift and carried him to the village many leagues away. He names the traveler and recalls how he returned every year to trade stories and gifts. The skald's voice softens as he speaks of laughter shared by hearth fires. Tears gather in your eyes, and you imagine that traveler standing among you now, his life forever changed by the hero's mercy. The hall grows still as the third tale ends. The skald does not lift a horn or drum. Instead, he places his hand over his heart and bows. He steps back and the clan bows in return. You feel the rhythm of each heart beating in time with the hero's memory. A fourth skald enters then, an elder whose face is etched by years of storms and battles. He carries a carved box of ivory. From it he withdraws a handful of thin metal rings. He holds them aloft and says these rings represent the hero's oaths. Each ring was forged on a spring dawn when the hero vowed loyalty to kin. He names each oath in turn. You feel each vow resonate in your chest. You remember the night you shared wine with the hero by moonlight and swore your own oath to stand by him always. When the oaths are named, the elder places a ring on the hero's sword hilt. It clinks softly against the runework. A hush settles over the hall again. You feel the gravity of promises fulfilled. Then the youngest skald steps forward, a girl no older than 12. She wears a simple cloak and holds a small harp carved from maple. Her voice trembles as she begins the final song. It is a lullaby the hero sang to her when she watched him tie his boots before a journey. She sings of starlit nights of wind and wave, and returns his own words to him one last time. Her melody is fragile and bright as a candle flame. It wavers but grows stronger with each verse. You feel your own tears fall and taste their salt on your lips. When the lullaby ends, the harp falls silent. The girl bows and places the harp on the dais. You kneel and touch its strings lightly. They feel slack now, full of memory. You bow your head. The skalds gather then in a half circle around the dais. They raise their horns and drum in unison. The sound is thunder rolling across the hall. They chant a final chorus of names. Each chorus member names one of the hero's kin, one of his deeds, one of his virtues. You join in, naming them aloud. Your voice echoes off the wooden beams. When the chorus ends, the skalds lower their heads. Their role is done. The clan rises as one, stepping back from the dais. Torches are extinguished except one kept by the elder. He holds it high and speaks a final blessing. May the halls of Valhalla shine bright for you. May your shield stand strong in feasts to come. May your name be sung by skalds yet unborn. You step forward and lift the torch for a final farewell. You kiss its flame and press it to the laurel wreath at the hero's feet. Leaves curl and catch fire. Smoke rises in rings. The wreath burns like green fire, sending the hero's virtues skyward. You lower the torch and feel warmth flow through you. You bow deeply to the dais, to the skalds, and to every soul present. The hall remains hushed as night deepens outside. Then the elder strikes the floor with his staff. A signal, a release. The clan exhales together. You rise and follow them out into the night. Outside, the stars glitter overhead. You look back once at the longhouse where the songs still echo in the rafters. You know the hero will sail on into legend carried by these memories. You step into the darkened courtyard and feel the weight of every verse and every vow. You carry them in your heart as you walk home under silent skies. The night deepens around the longhouse, but the clan remains gathered. Torches gutter in the wind and cast tall shadows across the walls. The ashes of the pyre have cooled and turned to flickering embers on the fjord's edge. Now the focus returns to memory and song. You feel the weight of the hero's tale pressing on your tongue. It is time for the second chorus of remembrance. A skald steps forward again, this time holding a horn of carved birch. Its surface is inlaid with silver filigree that glints in torchlight. He lifts it to his lips and blows a steady call. The note rolls through the hall like distant thunder. You feel the echo in your chest. He begins with the hero's birth. He speaks of a stormy night when wind tore through tents and waves pounded the shore. He names the midwife and the kin who watched over the birth. He describes the moment the hero first cried, and the clan's hope that his spirit would be as fierce as the sea. You stand and place a hand on your own belly, in tribute to every life that began in trial and love. Another skald joins him, adding a counter-melody. Together their voices weave an intricate tapestry. They name the hero's childhood deeds, racing across fields with children in his wake, breaking the ice on frozen ponds so brothers and sisters could skate, leaving behind small footprints in laughter and wonder. You feel warmth spread through your chest as you recall the hero's kindness to every child. You step forward and place a small carved boat among the treasures on the dais. It bobs slightly as torches flicker. The chorus swells and then softens. A third skald steps forward and holds a small drum. He strikes a slow, rhythmic beat. You hear it like a heartbeat. You fall into step and begin to chant. You name each teacher who guided the hero's hand, the blacksmith who first taught him to wield an axe, the elder who showed him the runes, the herbalist who tended his wounds. You call each name in turn. The drum underscores each verse. You feel every soul there bow in respect to those who shaped the hero's path. When the tale of teachers ends, the skald turns the chant toward the hero's greatest victories. He recalls the siege that lasted 3 nights when the hero stood on the ramparts and lifted his voice in challenge until dawn broke. He speaks of the cunning raid where the hero led a small band through hidden caves to rescue captives. He lists each victory in measured cadence. You hear the sound of clashing steel and heaving shields in your mind. You clap your hands in time with the drum, feeling the thrill of battle once more. Then the melody shifts. A young skald with a harp joins in. She fingers the strings and adds a lilting counterpoint. The song now recounts the hero's quiet moments, gazing at sunset from the cliff's edge, sharing bread and cheese with a stranger, whispering prayers to the gods through mist and rain. The contrast of war and peace settles like a balm over the hall. You close your eyes and taste salt on your lips. You remember nights by the hearth when the hero spoke of dreams of home. The skalds ebb and flow between soaring odes and whispered refrains. They name the hero's virtues: courage, wisdom, compassion, loyalty. Each virtue is spoken twice, once in the tongue of warriors and again in the hush of lovers. You feel the power of those words anchor the hero's spirit. You open your eyes and look at the dais. The sword and shield have faded to dull metal and wood, but now they shine in memory as bright as they ever did in life. A hush falls as the drum and harp fade into silence. The final skald, an elder with silver hair, steps forward. He holds a sprig of yew and speaks the closing verse. The yew stands for endurance and rebirth. He breaks a few needles and tosses them into the torch flames. The sparks leap and drift upward like fireflies. He says these words in his deep voice. May your deeds guide us. May your courage inspire us. May your memory never fade. You feel the breath catch in your throat. The spark of shared pride flares in every chest. You lift your arms and offer silent thanks to the hero who walked among you. You vow to carry his tale forward. Then the clan begins to disperse. Torches are passed down lines until only one flicker remains at the dais. You step forward and lay your own hand on the hilt of the hero's sword. You whisper the hero's name and vow to tell his story. You step back and bow your head. Outside wind stirs the torches again. You step into the courtyard where children run among birch trees. You hear them hum the song of the hero's birth. You smile and join their hum in silence. You feel memory alive in every breath. When you return home, you will carry scraps of song in your heart. You will hum the verses as you work. You will remember each name the skald spoke. And in so doing, you will keep the hero's spirit alive from generation to generation. Tonight, the longhouse stands hushed but full of life. You walk among clan and kin, sharing nods and quiet words. You taste the smoke on the wind and carry the warmth of memory beneath your skin. And you know that as long as the songs are sung, the hero's voyage will never end. The night air is thick with smoke and silence as the clan forms a wide circle around the burning funeral ship. You stand shoulder to shoulder with kin and comrades, each holding a single torch that flickers against the dark. The only light now comes from the pyre's roaring heart. Embers flare and drift skyward in glowing clouds. You feel their heat on your face and taste ash on your tongue. You shift your weight and glance around. Faces gleam with firelight eyes fixed on the prow where flames crackle like living serpents. Children huddle close to parents, their small hands gripping torches too large for them. Warriors stand at attention beneath their mail, their arms crossed on shield, bosses still warm to the touch. Women stoop, heads bowed, hands clasped against scarves drawn tight around shoulders. Even the youngest bow their heads in respect. You raise your torch above your head and hold it steady. Its flame bends toward the pyre, as though drawn by a greater fire. You feel a tug in your chest, a pulse of collective grief and pride. This moment is both an ending and a beginning. The hero's body has burned to embers, but his memory now rises like smoke into the heavens. The roar of flame fills your ears. You tune your heartbeat to its rhythm. Each crackling log speaks of ancient pines felled for this purpose. The mast glows white-hot and bows at the center of the ship before splitting into glowing splinters that shower hot sparks into the night. You see the dragon's head at the prow melt into molten runes that drip into the tide. You inhale deeply and catch the scent of pine pitch and burning oak. It stings your nostrils but also steadies your mind. You remember summers when you gathered resin from the grove for seals and caulking. You remember the feel of resin warmed between your fingers, sticky and bright. That same resin now carries the hero's spirit on its smoky breath. The clan stands wordless. No tears fall now, only the steady vigil of witness. You feel each person's presence like a pledge of loyalty. Each torch in the circle a vow to remember. Each heart beating in time with the fire. A sudden hiss draws your gaze to the stern where the coals glow red beneath the keel. A wave of flame races forward along the hull and upward into the sails that remain stitched to the yardarm. The sails flare bright orange, then blacken and collapse. A tiny lantern clinks to the deck and crumbles to ash before hitting wood. You feel a flush of sorrow and wonder. Every object you placed upon this ship has now been offered to the flames. You hear the Scold's horn sounding a single pulse. The note vibrates across water and earth. It calls you all back to memory. A second pulse follows, and then a third. The clan joins in a silent vigil of breath and presence. You inhale the night sky and exhale gratitude and grief. Smoke swirls above you in great columns. You trace its path with your eyes as it rises through stars and clouds. You see the constellations shift through the haze. You imagine each dancing ember, a small soul bearing praises to the gods. You whisper the hero's name into the smoke and feel it carried upward. Behind you, a mother lifts her child onto her hip so the boy can see better. The child points at a glowing plank that falls into the water, sending ripples across the fjord. The ripples catch torchlight and flicker like fireflies on water. You step forward and rest a hand on the mother's arm. She nods, and tears glisten in her eyes, but she smiles, steady and strong. A warrior next to you grips his axe and stares at the prow. He hums a steady verse under his breath. You lean close and catch the words of an old battle hymn. You hum along softly. The tune winds through the roar of flame, a quiet echo. You feel the axes and shields of past kin guiding you. You feel the weight of heritage in every note. As the fire climbs the prow, you hear the first crack of splitting timber. Hot sparks rain down like glowing petals. A man steps forward and lifts a bowl of water. He hurls it at the prow. The steam hisses and shrinks the flames back for a flicker. The gesture is bold, but wrong. The fire refuses to be tamed. You see the steam swirl into the smoke, then vanish into night. You catch your torchlight in a broken shard of glass left on the gunwale. It glints bright. You pick it up and see the world through its prism. Flames refract into 7 colors. Stars and torches and embers become a galaxy in your hand. You hold the shard to your eye and feel a moment of wonder before dropping it back to the deck. At the center of the ring, the elder steps forward again. His staff thumps softly on the ground. His voice rises in a final blessing of release and remembrance. He names the hero's virtues: strength, courage, compassion, loyalty, wisdom. With each virtue, he thrusts his staff toward the fire. Sparks fly from the tip on each word, as though the staff channels the fire's power. You feel each name burn in your heart. When he finishes, the clan bows their heads once. Then they look up at the flames. You see the elder's eyes shining with tears that glow in torchlight. You feel your own tears burn your cheeks. You let them fall. The wind shifts, and smoke drifts away from you. You hear the crackle of flames die back at the stern. You turn and see the setting moon peek behind a cloud. Its pale light fights the firelight. You hold both lights in your gaze and feel the balance of life and death. Slowly, the clan begins to disperse. Torches are carried back up the path toward the longhouse. You grip your torch until the flame steadies, and then you follow. You glance once at the fire ring still glowing on the water's edge. You know you will carry its memory forever. You know that every time you tell this story, you will see the glowing prow and feel the heat on your face. The path back to the longhouse is quiet now. You hear only the muted footsteps of the clan and the soft whisper of wind through pines. You see torches bobbing up the hill like fireflies drawn home. You feel the vigil's final ember in your chest, warm and unwavering. You reach the longhouse door and pause. You look back and see the fire's glow melting the horizon. You whisper one last farewell to the hero and press your palm to the wood of the longhouse door. You feel its grain and warmth and know that memory will burn as bright as those flames in the days to come. When the final embers fade to glowing coals, the clan gathers again at the water's edge. The night air is cool and carries the faint scent of smoke and salt. You join the throng and see lines of warriors holding buckets and sacks. Women carry baskets woven from willow. Children stand quietly at the back, their eyes wide in the flickering torchlight. All faces are solemn but resolved. You step forward first, lifting a bucket of cool water from the fjord. You pour it gently over the coals. Steam hisses where water meets heat, and you watch sparks spiral upward before fading into the darkness. The ship's hull sags, its prow smouldering in the shallow waters. You feel the final release of flame, and flame's power slip back into earth and water. A warrior kneels and begins to scoop ash into a leather sack. You move beside him and take the sack's opening. The ash is fine and grey like sifted stone. You press your hand into the bucket of water and flick droplets into the ash so that it clings in damp clumps. Each handful you gather feels like a piece of memory you must carry. You think of the hero's laughter, the sound of his voice and the weight of his shield in your hands. You whisper his name to the ashes and drop them into the sack. The sack grows heavy even as the ash seems weightless. Nearby, a woman lifts charred bones from the remains of the hull. She holds a long tongs of iron and picks out ribs and fragments of planking that once held the hero's bier. Each piece she places gently into a wooden box. You step forward to help. With soft fingers, you lift a brittle splinter of bone and carry it to the box beside other relics. A melted bracelet, a bit of rune-carved wood, and a shard of the prow's dragon head. You whisper a blessing for each relic you hold. May your spirit remain whole. May your courage guide us. May your memory never fade. A child approaches with a small bowl of melted metal flecks from burned silver jewels. You take the bowl and swirl the metal bits in water so they sink to the bottom. Then you pour off the cloudy water and gather the metal flecks in a linen pouch. You imagine forging them into a new ring or amulet to honor the hero's bloodline. You tie the pouch to your belt and feel its weight like a promise. A group of kin stands on a low rise above the ash field. They hold cloths in their hands and kneel in prayer. One by one, they dip their cloths into the water and wipe their eyes and cheeks. They lift the cloths to their lips, kiss them, and wrap them around relic pouches at their waists. You kneel with them and fold your cloak across your face as you pray in silence. Your cloak will hold the stain of this night, but also carry the warmth of memory. When the prayers end, a man with a lantern steps forward. He holds a small basket filled with embers taken from the pyre's heart. He lifts one ember and holds it high. All eyes turn toward him. He speaks a single word of power in a voice that cracks like wood. Then he leans and places the ember in the fjord. The water hisses white, and a tiny flare rises before dying. He repeats this with each ember until the basket is empty. You watch the last ember vanish and feel the final link between fire and sea break. A hush settles as clan members rise. You stand as well, shoulders stiff from kneeling. You gather your own relics, the sack of ashes, the pouch of metal flecks, the bone fragments, the rune tokens. Each carries weight, each demands respect. You lift them gently into a large wooden chest that sits on the shore. You step back and let the chest close. You see the clan leader place his hands on its lid and say a final blessing for safekeeping. Children gather twigs and fallen branches for a small bonfire to mark the closing of rites. They kindle a few sparks, and the fire grows into a gentle flame. They dance in a circle around it, keeping it alive until every gathered cloth and token can be blessed in its light. You help coax the flames with a fresh bit of wood. The fire flares golden, and every smile is lit by hope. A skald who waited in silence steps forward with a horn. He blows a single steady note that settles like balm on every soul. Then another and another, until a pattern emerges, a song of farewell and continuity. He names each relic stored now in the chest. He calls out every place the hero trod, every ally he aided, and every life he touched. His voice carries across the water and up into the starry sky. You join in softly. You speak each verse as if the words themselves can guide the clan into tomorrow. By the time the song ends, the chest is ready to move. Warriors lift it with strong arms and carry it up the path toward the ancestral hall. You fall in step behind them. The path is uneven, and your boots crunch on stones and pine needles. Torches bob along the line, illuminating each step. The forest presses close overhead, but feels protective rather than forbidding. You walk in silence beside friends and family. Each person carries a smaller relic or cloth. Each step honors the hero's memory. You pass the place where the first torch was lit and the pylons of flame stretched into the night. You remember the heat on your face and the roar that filled your ears. You feel that warmth now in your heart. At the longhouse door, the procession slows. The hall stands warm and welcoming. You feel a surge of relief, but also the knowledge that the night's work cannot end by stepping inside. You help carry the chest to the dais of memory prepared earlier. The chest is set down with care and opened. You watch as kin place each relic back into its offered spot. Ashes in a carved niche, bones in a silver-lined box, metal flakes in a glass jar, tokens in a wooden bowl. When the last relic is placed, the clan forms a circle around the chest. You step forward and light the final candle. Its flame glows steady in a crystal holder. You hold your breath as the candle flickers and paints your face in gold. You close your eyes and make one final prayer. A prayer not for the hero now lost to flame and water, but for those who remain to carry his memory. You reverently blow out the candle and step back. The clan disperses then, each person touching the chest once more before moving to gather feast remains. Tables of bread, bowls of stew, and pots of sweet mead stand ready for the final meal. You join your comrades at the tables, sharing food and drink that nourishes body and spirit. Soft laughter returns. Stories begin anew, but now shaped by the night's sorrow and triumph. By the time the last bowl is emptied, the first light of dawn touches the sky. You look up at the stars, fading to silver in the east. You feel the hope of a new day and the power of memory that will guide your clan onward. The relics rest secure, the vigil is complete, and the hero's memory will burn in your hearts like scented embers on the wind. Dawn's first light filters through mist that still clings to the shore. A hush falls over the clan as you gather at the burial mound site, a gentle rise of earth and stone carved by your ancestors. The chest of relics from the funeral ship stands before you, its lid closed and bound with leather thongs. A ring of standing stones marks the boundary of this sacred ground. You step forward and feel the blood and memory of those who came before you. The clan elder lifts his staff and calls the name of the fallen hero. His voice echoes in the chill air. You bow your head and feel each heartbeat echo in response. Next, the warriors step forward 2 by 2, carrying heavy sacks of earth from the mound's edge. Each warrior pours a handful into a low pit, dirt cascading and settling around the hidden chest. You follow with your own share, feeling the grain sift through your fingers, each speck a promise of rest. When the chest sinks beneath the loam, the elder raises his hands. He sprinkles water drawn from the sacred spring around the mound's perimeter. Each drop hisses softly on cold earth. He murmurs blessings that speak of protection and renewal and the turning of seasons. You stand quietly as he pours the water slowly in a circle, sealing the hero's passage between worlds. Next, the clan places amulets and tokens on the mound's surface. Warriors lay broken spearheads that carried the hero into battle. You step forward with your own token, a twisted braid of leather that once bound your friend's arm in healing. You tie it to a stout branch of yew and press it into the soil. The yew will grow strong, and its branches will shelter the grave, while its roots bind memory to earth. Women place small wooden carvings of animals, raven, wolf, and bear, each symbol honoring different aspects of the hero's spirit. You watch as ravens take and drop their carvings, each one a plea for guidance in the afterlife. The clan elder nods in approval. He picks a carving of a stag and makes the sign of life upon it before placing it at the foot of the mound. Children carry wreaths of wild flowers, fresh from the meadow. They drop petals across the earth in bright swaths of color. You feel the contrast of color against damp clay. The blossoms speak of spring and renewal, even as they mark a final goodbye. You take a handful of petals and let them drift like confetti on the morning breeze. At the mound's crown, the elder's voice rings out again. He calls upon the gods of earth and sky to watch over the grave. He names the hero's lineage and deeds, sealing them in stone and soil. The clan repeats each phrase in unison, a chant that weaves their voices into the land itself. You speak each word clearly, feeling the power of collective memory uplift you. When the naming ends, a great stone slab carved with runes is carried forward. 2 strong men tile it on the mound's crest. You help maneuver it into place. Its weight presses your shoulder and you feel the solidity of the rune work under your palm. The runes spell the hero's name and virtues and a prayer for peace. You step back as the slab settles. The mound is complete. All around you, clan members bow their heads. A woman begins to sing a quiet lament. Her voice is soft but clear. She sings of the hero's journey from birth to flame to earth. Tears fall silently from many eyes. You brush one from your cheek and feel the surge of love and loss that binds you all. When the lament ends, the elder steps forward with a horn. It is carved from old bone and inlaid with silver. He blows a single note that rings pure and bright. You feel its vibration in your chest once more. Then he lifts the horn and pours its contents of mead onto the stone slab. The mead soaks into the carved runes and seeps into the soil below. You catch the sweetness on your lips and bow your head in thanks. Next, the clan honors the hero with offerings of food and drink. Bowls of porridge, bread, barley, and cheese are laid around the mound. You place a bowl of roasted nuts and dried fruit. These offerings feed both body and spirit and ensure the hero's hunger is sated in the next realm. You bow your head as you lay the bowl down and whisper a wish for peace. A circle of torches is lit around the mound. Their flames dance in a steady ring. You step back into the circle and feel the warmth and light. It feels like a lantern guiding the hero through dark paths. You watch the torches burn bright and steady until their flames bend with wind. Children hold hands and circle the mound, their bare feet soft on grass and stone. They chant a playful rhyme learned from elders. You smile as their voices rise in innocence and joy. This circular dance binds life and death in one shared step. You join their circle briefly, placing your hand on a child's shoulder, then step back to honor both youth and memory. Now the final tribute begins. Clan members take turns stepping to the stone slab and placing one personal token. A mother lays down a silver ring. A warrior offers a worn axe head. A singer drops a quill from her harp. You approach with a carved flute. You press it against the runes and kiss its wooden mouthpiece. Then you step back and watch as it becomes part of the hero's enduring story. The burial mound stands complete at last. Green grass will soon cover fresh earth. Flowers will bloom each spring. Stones will bear runes through seasons of sun and wind. And the hero's name will live in song and story as long as your people gather. Exhausted but honored, you step away from the mound. You walk with kin back toward the longhouse a final time. Dawn breaks more fully now, painting sky in gold and rose. You feel a surge of hope. The hero rests in earth, embraced by memory and song. You carry that solace in your bones as you return home to hearth and huddle with kin, knowing that every tale told will bring life anew to the hero's name. The sun climbs high above the longhouse as smoke still drifts from the hearth outside. The clan gathers once more in the great hall for a final feast. Tables carved from oak stand laden with steaming stews of lamb and barley, platters of roasted root vegetables glistening with butter, baskets of fresh bread, and bowls of sweet honeyed porridge. Jars of mead sparkle like liquid gold. The air hums with anticipation and gratitude for life, renewed after solemn rites of farewell and remembrance. You take a seat beside the hearth, where the heat warms your back and the scent of burning birch fills your lungs. Warriors settle onto benches, their armor set aside for comfort. Women arrange platters within easy reach. Children weave between chairs, collecting morsels and giggling. At the head table, the clan leader stands and raises a polished drinking horn full of mead. His voice rings clear across the hall. "Let us celebrate the hero's life," he calls. "Let us honor his deeds by living boldly and forging new tales of courage and kindness." With that, he drains the horn in 3 long gulps, then passes it to the next in line. You receive the horn, feel the cool sweetness slide down your throat, and pass it onward. The circle of mead is shared, each sip binding you to kin and memory. Plates clatter as the feast begins in earnest. You ladle stew into your bowl and taste its rich warmth. You dip bread into the juices, savoring every crumb. You watch as laughter rises around the hall. A warrior recounts a joke the hero once told during a winter raid, and even the steadiest faces break into smiles and chuckles. A woman adds a witty remark about a stubborn sheep that refused to obey its herder. The hall erupts in laughter that chases away the last shadows of sorrow. A skald stands on a low bench and holds up a carved wooden horn. He clears his throat and begins a tale of victory at sea. He names each warrior who fought at the prow. He describes the clash of shields and the flash of sword blades under moonlight. The clan listens with rapt attention, hanging on every verse. You feel the thrill of that battle anew as if you were there yourself. When the skald finishes, the hall breaks into applause. Another skald begins a song of loss and perseverance. She sings of winter's darkness and days when no sail could venture forth. She speaks of cold nights by the fire, keeping embers alive and hearts stronger still. Her melody is haunting and beautiful, and eyes glisten with tears. You feel a lump in your throat as you recall the hero's courage in the storm. You wipe your eyes discreetly and lift your cup in salute. Between tales, children step forward to perform small songs learned from elders. Their voices are bright and clear. They sing of spring meadows and dancing flowers. Their innocence reminds everyone of life's simple joys. You smile at their earnest faces and clap as they finish. They beam and run back to the tables for more sweet porridge. Now a group of women gather around a large bowl of chopped vegetables and herbs. They begin to prepare fresh salad with oil and vinegar. They pass the bowls down the table, offering crisp lettuce and bright peppers. The tartness cuts the richness of meat and stew. You accept a handful of salad and taste its brightness, feeling the promise of renewal with every bite. At the far end, a horn blower steps onto a bench and sounds a call. The crowd hushes. A final storyteller, plants himself at the hearth's edge, and unfolds a long scroll of parchment. He begins to read from the hero's own journal, passages he wrote in his own hand. The hall leans forward as he reads of first light on calm seas, of quiet reflection under starlit skies, of dreams of home and hearth. Each word echoes in the quiet hall. You feel the hero's spirit among you, sharing his voice once more. When the reading ends, the storyteller rolls up the parchment. He addresses the clan and says that the hero's words now belong to all who gathered. He invites everyone to share their own recollections. A young warrior calls out a tale of how the hero saved him from a snare trap in the forest. He describes gratitude and astonishment. A merchant recalls kindness shown when he fell ill miles from home. A mother speaks of the hero's gentle encouragement when she lost her way in grief. Each story weaves a new thread into the tapestry of remembrance. The hall fills with voices reciting deeds and dreams. You stand and speak of something small yet dear. You recall the morning you carved this friend a small wooden trout that matched his laughter when he caught his first fish. You describe how he carried that carving in his pocket and showed it to kin far and wide. Laughter and nods greet your tale. You feel pride in sharing a memory that honors both you and the hero. As the sun lowers behind high rafters, the torchlight glows warmer. The final roast animal is passed around. You savor its tender flesh and taste the courage that sustains a clan. Elders pass jugs of honeyed wine. You raise your cup in a silent toast to kinship. You feel the warmth spread through your chest, a fire that outlasts any pyre. A horn sounds again, calling the clan to stand. They rise and join hands in a great ring around the hearth. One by one, they step forward and place an offering of bread or fruit on a low bench beside the hearth. Each offering symbolizes the clan's shared bounty and commitment to life and community. You add your own piece of bread and step back into the ring. The circle holds you all together. A child breaks from the ring and dances a quick reel in the center of the circle. Her feet move with joyous abandon. A couple of warriors join her, stomping hearty steps. The circle laughs and claps. A few women lift their skirts in dance. Soon the entire clan moves in rhythm around the hearth, celebrating life's resilience and the bond of kinship. At last the music slows and the circle unwinds. The clan disperses to smaller groups. You stand with a few comrades and talk softly of the days to come. You share hopes for next spring's ploughing, next summer's harvest, and next winter's hearty fireside tales. You speak of building new ships and forging fresh bonds. You speak of journeys yet to be taken and challenges yet to be met. Each promise tastes sweet, like the mead you still hold. You feel full in body and spirit. The feast and stories have chased away the night's sorrow. You feel ready to face tomorrow's dawn. You breathe deep and look around at your clan. You see strength in every face, hope in every gleam of eye. You know the hero's memory lives on in every grain of barley and every verse sung tonight. As the hall empties, you step outside. The night sky is clear and stars shimmer overhead. You walk toward the burial mound where a single torch still burns. You touch its flame gently with your finger and feel the last warmth of vigil. You bow your head silently and whisper a final blessing. You walk home under the stars, carrying memory, joy, and hope in your heart. Long after the embers cooled and the tales were told, the clan carried the rituals of farewell and remembrance into the seasons that followed. Those early ceremonies by fire and water left impressions deeper than carved runes on stone. They shaped how the community saw itself and its place between earth and sky. In spring, children gathered by the burial mound to plant flowering bulbs in neat rows. They learned that growth begins in soil enriched by memory, and that each bloom honors those who came before. As the flowers opened, they reminded young and old alike of the hero's life and of life's renewal. They carried petals home to press between pages and keep as living bookmarks in family tomes. Summer brought shipbuilding in new light. When keel and plank rose from workshops, the builders remembered the funeral ship carved in solemn labor. They spoke of choosing the right timber and of carving protective runes on prow and stern. Each new vessel bore inscriptions shaped by that first pyre and carried its passengers with gratitude and care. The waves that once bore farewell now carried merchants, explorers, and kin to gatherings and markets. Every sail flap echoed lessons of community strength. In autumn, the clan held harvest festivals flavored by remembrance. Bread baked for the feast was cut deliberately into shapes, recalling shields and horns. Jars of mead were blessed not only for sweetness, but for courage in the months ahead. Young mothers taught daughters the songs the skalds once sang by torchlight. Music and dance renewed bonds and passed on verses so each generation could feel the heroes' laughter in their steps. Winter's fireside storytelling became a sacred rite. Families gathered around hearths and took turns recounting the heroes' feats and the clan's greatest deeds. In each tale told by crackling logs, children heard echoes of the ship's flames and the dragon prow melting into myth. Elders wove moral teachings into every story, reminding listeners that kindness and courage live on when memory breathes. Every ember that flickered against darkened walls seemed to whisper the hero's name. The communal burial mound remained a constant landmark. As trees grew tall around it, the mound transformed into a living memorial. Moss and lichen claimed its stones and wildflowers painted its slopes each spring. Clan members cleared brush and planted saplings, learning that care for sacred ground requires diligent practice. They taught children to lay stones and weave flowers into wreaths, passing the ritual's meaning through gentle hands. Market day brought travelers from distant lands who marveled at the clan's stone circle and burial mound. The clan elders welcomed these guests with hospitality, sharing both bread and story. They recounted the rites of farewell, explaining the power of fire, water, and song to guide a soul on its journey. Travelers carried home wondrous tales of northern customs, and the hero's memory became a beacon that drew curious minds and shared lessons of respect for the dead. When a child was born, the midwife placed a small token of ash from the hero's pyre into the cradle. The token reminded the family that life springs from memory, and that each new soul joins an unbroken chain. Parents spoke to their children of the hero's virtues and hopes for their own growth in wisdom and bravery. This simple ritual bound birth to farewell and taught that every end carries promise of a new beginning. As the clan traded with neighboring villages, they found their rituals honored in distant tongues. Runes carved on shared goods signified respect and lasting connection. Shields emblazoned with symbols from the hero's feast hung in foreign halls, telling of a people who valued memory and community. In this way, the clan's identity spread beyond its shores, shaped by the lessons born of ritual. In times of hardship, the clan turned instinctively to the old ways. When famine or storm threatened, they gathered by the mound, or the shrine where prayers once rose in smoke and song. They poured mead and recited rune verses by torchlight, recalling how the hero's passage depended on unity and courage. These acts rallied hearts and steadied hands, proving that ritual does more than honor the past, it fortifies the present. Scholar scribes took up parchments to record the clan's practices. They wrote down verses and blessings once passed only by word of mouth. They described the carving of prows and the selection of timber, the gathering of tokens and the mixing of mead. They transcribed skalds, chants, and lullabies, preserving every nuance for generations yet unborn. These manuscripts became treasured heirlooms, teaching children far beyond the longhouse the lessons of memory built in flame and water. On high festival days, the clan painted their faces in colors drawn from the burial mound's flowers and the funeral ship's runes. They donned garments embroidered with knotwork that echoed the dragon's head prow. Dancers and drummers moved in patterns reflecting the circle of torches that once guided the hero's passage. These vibrant ceremonies reminded everyone that life itself is ritual woven through daily tasks and seasonal celebrations. When a warrior fell in battle, the clan paid tribute with a simple rite echoing the great funeral ship. A small fire was lit on the battlefield, embers saved for the hero's hearth at home. Family members carried personal tokens to present around the child's coffin, a sword song or token from the veteran's kit. A skald recited brief verses of honor before the ashes were carried back to the burial mound. In this way, the lessons of the original funeral lived on in quieter ceremonies of grief and remembrance. As years passed, the hero's mound became a site of pilgrimage. Travel-weary souls came to lay wreaths and hear the songs. The clansmen welcomed them around new fireside feasts. They offered mead and bread and stories of the original farewell. Each visitor who returned to their homeland carried with them a spark of the hero's memory and the clan's core values. In quiet moments, children sat at the longhouse porch and traced rune carvings on planks once hewn for the funeral ship. They asked elders to explain each symbol's meaning. They learned that runes stand for protection, honor, and passage. They learned that carved wood bears spirit and that speech spoken in ritual weaves bonds stronger than iron. When the clan faced disputes over land or resources, they turned to the lessons of unity first learned by gathering for the hero's farewell. Elders counseled that conflict be settled with measured words and shared meals rather than swordplay. They reminded disputing families of the power of communal rites to heal division. These teachings prevented feuds from erupting into bloodshed and preserved peace born of ritual. Even in modern times, when caravels and steamships took the place of wooden prows, the clan continued to honor the original rites. They adapted vessels with carved dragon heads at bows and held commemorative ceremonies on forgotten coasts. They marked birth, death, and union with simple tokens and songs taught at hearth fires. The lessons of farewell and remembrance remained alive in hearts shaped by ancestors. As you look back on those first days by the fjord, you see how every element, from timber and flame to runes and verse, instilled a sense of identity and purpose. You realize that rituals do more than mourn the dead. They teach courage, compassion, unity, and hope. They forge community out of sorrow and strength out of memory. And so you carry these lessons forward. You tell the hero's story to your children, and theirs in turn. You chant rune verses under moonlight. You help carve symbols on new ships and plant flowers by burial mounds. You gather by fire to share bread and mead and laughter and tears. You know that each act of ritual weaves another thread into the fabric of your clan's soul. In this way, the hero's passage became a living legacy. In flame and smoke and stone and song, the clan found meaning beyond death. They learned that to honor the past is to shape the future, and that memory itself is the greatest gift one generation can leave another. You think you can handle a quick funeral at a funeral home. A short service, a few tears, then back to your routine. You think you know grief because you've watched movies or attended a service with soft music and polished floors. But you would not last a day at a Viking funeral. First, you would arrive at dawn, wearing your best clothes and carrying nothing but a cell phone and a press suit. You would watch as the clan gathers in the cold light, carving prows and wedges and gathering timber from sacred groves. You would feel out of place among warriors and shipwrights and skalds whose only concern is honoring their own with sweat and song. You would shiver in the wind as the timbers crack and split under broad axes. You would gag at the scent of fresh resin and pine sap. You would stand silently as an elder circles the logs sprinkling water and ash in sacred blessing. Then a great beast of a ship would take shape before your eyes, its prow carved in the fierce image of a dragon's head. You would realize that this vessel is not a piece of paper or a photograph. It is real wood, cleft by iron and sweat and prayer for a voyage beyond death. Then you would move to the funeral pyre site at dusk. You'd hold a borrowed torch and feel its heat bake your fingers. You'd see the hero's casket laid in the ship's hold along with swords and shields and tokens of love. You'd watch as the clan steps back and the elder's voice rises above the crackle of kindling and the hiss of resin. You'd hear rune chants of farewell that echo through your bones. Your skin would crawl with fear and wonder. When the pyre ignites, you'd feel a blast of flame forward as the wood erupts in living fire. Shields would burst into molten metal. Sails would flare and collapse. You'd taste smoke and ash on the wind. You'd feel your own heartbeat match the fire's roar. You'd stand rooted where you are because the spectacle is both terrible and beautiful. Then you'd join the silent vigil. You'd hold your torch high as embers drift into the sky like sparks of memory. You'd watch the ship's form melt into glowing coals. You'd feel a surge of sorrow that has no outlet in tears alone. You'd feel the weight of kinship, of stories, of every life carried forward by that flame. By dawn you'd gather ashes and bones and relics to bury in your ancestral mound. You'd carry buckets of earth and place each scoop in solemn tribute, whispering blessings as you walk. You'd tie tokens of leather and metal to young saplings and carve runes on standing stones. You'd sprinkle mead and honey on the final grave. You'd weave flowers at the foot of the mound. You'd feel a sense of loss and renewal so profound it shakes you beyond words. At the longhouse you'd feast and tell tales of the hero's courage. You'd raise horns of mead in joyous song. You'd pass platters of roasted meat and sweet porridge. You'd stand as the skald recites epic verses, and you'd feel your own life bind to every word. You'd laugh through tears at the hero's pranks and weep at his sacrifices. You'd taste salt in your mouth but sweetness in your heart. Then you'd witness lessons handed down. Children would plant bulbs on the mound and deliver stones into the water for peace. Carpenters would build new ships with runes and knotwork echoing the dragon's head. Midwives would place ash tokens in swaddling cloths for newborns. Elders would settle disputes with bread and verse instead of swords. You'd see a living culture, shaped by those first fiery rites, and only then would you understand that this radiant farewell is not spectacle. It is identity and belief. It is community and continuity. It is the fierce joy of life bound to memory. You would not last because your world collapses grief into an hour or two. You treasure efficiency and convenience. You fear soot and shame. You measure respect in glossy brochures and brief prayers. You cannot endure an entire cycle of mourning and renewal that spans days and nights and seasons. In your world, a funeral is a box to check. In their world, it is the forging of bonds that shape every moment thereafter. You would be lost among axes and torches and rune chants. You would never learn the power of fire to carry a soul home. You would never feel the heat of community rising in unison. You would never stand in silent vigil as embers glow brighter than any star. You would not last because you cannot comprehend grief lived in layers. You demand a quick fix. You demand a tidy path from sorrow to closure. But sorrow in a Viking funeral is a journey. It begins with sweat and timber and carving, and ends with embers and earth and song. It is a path trod by every member of the clan, and each step leaves a lesson on the land and the heart. If you tried to endure one day at a Viking funeral, you would fail at the first swing of an axe. You would choke at the rising smoke. You would break into tears when the hero's sword was laid to flame. You would stumble away at the ritual feast, unable to taste meat or mead. You would vanish before the vigil concluded. You would never carry the ash of memory home. They say that their heroes never die as long as songs rise from hearth fires. You would not last long enough to learn a verse. You would never feel the hush of 100 voices calling a name into the night sky. You would not stand at the burial mound when children plant flowers for spring. You would not gather for the harvest feast that honors every hero lost and found. You would not stitch runes into cradle blankets for new life. You would not carry the stories forward. So stay in your world of quick goodbyes and tidy boxes. Stay where grief is sanitized and sealed. Stay where identity is commerce and convenience. Because in theirs you would perish. In ritual you do not fathom. You would watch flames climb and crumble under sorrow beyond your years. You would bow to runes carved in wood that speak of life and death in one breath. You would last not a day at a Viking funeral, and perhaps that is for the best. Perhaps their rituals are too fierce a fire for modern souls meant to flicker briefly then fade. Perhaps only those born to wind and wave and flame can walk that path, feeling every step etched into earth and heart until the final journey begins.